Hey, comic book fans! Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Geezers. Have a little special episode in store for you. This one's called 5 Favorite Key Issues.
So key issue meaning a very much sought after, in many cases expensive, important issue that we have in our collection.
Monumental events
Yes.
in the storylines of comics, history
Yes.
of comics.
Or in some cases first issues, or in some cases debut of a certain character or what have you. But
Or traumatic events.
Traumatic events, good point.
Speaking of traumatic events, I'll kick it off with my first one that I present for like the 5th or 6th time in the history of comic book.
I mean, come on, who gets tired of seeing this one? I mean,
The Death of Gwen Stacy's,
Yeah.
issue 121.
Yep.
Compliments to this guy right over here. I saved this from the beer money story, right?
Yes. So for those of you who haven't heard it, so back in the 80s when he and I were going to college
and
together.
we didn't know that we were both comic book fans, and he was sitting there moping on the couch one day. I was hanging out at his apartment. I was like, "What's wrong, dude?" He's like, I just sold some comics for beer money. I'm like, wow, I didn't know you were into comics. I knew you for like a year and a half then. I was like, I didn't know you were into comics. Dude, I'll give you a stack. I'll give you some money for a stack of comics. I like Spider-Man. And this was in the pile. I bought like 10 Spider-Mans from him, and they were all between the 120s and the 130s. And my collection was like at the lowest, maybe the high 130s, maybe the 140s. So I filled in a lot of gaps in the 120s thanks to this guy. And this was one of them cherries right here that you see.
Bad move. But
so still better than selling it to the comic book guy.
Right, so I've had to go re-buy that, obviously.
But
so
it's been in good hands. It's been well taken care of.
Yeah, it's in very good shape.
I got this from you in 1986, right? So here we are. 34 years later, still looking good. This book is from 1973.
Yep.
Classic storyline, The Death of Gwen Stacy.
Bought that off the rack back in 1973, yeah.
Yeah, look at her.
It's in very good shape, yeah.
Yeah.
It's in very good shape.
Beautiful cover.
Yeah.
And again with the circular, with all the heads, marble heads in circular pattern. So, great issue.
I was lucky, because of course I sold this to Bill way back in the 80s, but I had to go rebuy this in recent years. And I got this 2 years ago with 122, and I got a really good deal on the two of them together.
So that's cool that you finally recapped.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what is yours to kick off?
All right, let's start off with, we talked about first issues, right? How about issue number 1 of Silver Surfer?
How about it? I love this book and need it.
Yeah.
I need the first 4 actually, and 12 and 16, and I will finish the run.
That's right.
But it's very unlikely with money and what they were asking for that I'll be able to get the first 4. I might realistically be able to get 2, 12, and 16, but 1, 3 is the first Mephisto.
Yep.
Very expensive book, and of course the classic other one is number 4. But
4, yeah. But this is one of the, if you like, he and I have talked about this a lot, like in private. It's like I think these couple of key Silver Surfers, you gotta be, if you really want them, you gotta be looking in all sorts of different outlets for them all the time.
Under
You gotta
rocks,
be watching.
markets.
Yeah, you gotta be watching those prices. If you got like a bunch of online outlets that you use, you gotta constantly monitor them, because every now and then someone will go selling this for maybe not quite as much as what they're asking.
I need to find one of these at a yard sale for like 50 cents. That's what I need.
Well, that's not gonna happen. But if you can find it for like
happen.
$100,
All 4 for a buck.
Jump all over it.
Yeah.
But the big premiere issue, and again, this was it's a 25 center, but this is like a double size. This is like one of those.
Is that a John Buscema cover?
Yes, it is. In fact, he drew cover, he drew the insides. He was the guy who did a good majority of the run. Yeah.
I'm gonna go off on a different tangent. I needed this for quite a long time. I only had 2 issues before I started recollecting again 4 years ago. Tomb of Dracula #1.
Yep.
Neil Adams cover. So I have almost the entire run. You have the entire run. I don't. I need the classic other keys, 10 and 13.
Yep.
And anyway, so I needed 1, 10, and 13. So I got finally #1. It's mine. Yeah.
Ironically, how the first few issues, I mean, the entire run was drawn by Gene Colan, but the first handful of issues he didn't do the covers on. which was kind of weird. And then
Gene Colan.
Yeah, but then like at one point he went and did covers and interiors of the entire.
But I guess it makes sense that Marvel invested in Neil Adams to do the cover for this.
Yeah, at the time.
But that was the right call, I would think, back then, right?
Yeah, that's a
He
great
did a
cover.
great job.
I love the atmosphere of here. I mean,
Yeah.
it just reminds you of like the old Dracula films, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
the fog and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely.
Very well
the full
done.
moon in the background,
Yeah.
so you know it's nighttime.
Very well done. I think if I was going to
Flaming
do...
his victim.
Yep. Always got to have that woman in distress on the cover, right?
So that's my second pick.
All right, so we're going to stay on the Silver Surfer here. So this is another
nice.
key here. This is number 4.
Classic cover of
Yeah.
all time for Marvel Comics from the Silver Age of comics. This
Silver
is
Surfer versus Thor, and pretty good confrontation in the inside.
highly revered as one of the most
Yeah.
iconic covers in the history of Marvel Comics.
It's one of my favorites. In fact, I went out of my way to get a special shirt of this, just because I had to have it. And my copy is decent. It's not great.
Number 4.
Yeah, number 4. It's got a couple creases on it and wrinkles and
It's
stuff.
still the
but
colors
it's still,
pop.
Yeah, it's holding its cover, and the insides are really intact very well. So
Who dies at the end? No one.
Bob?
Bob, there you go.
Dies.
Good answer.
But it's good. I'm pretty happy to have the entire Silver Surfer run, the first series, and so it's always good when you have like complete runs of some of these key books. Like I have the whole Silver Surfer run, I have the whole Submariner run, I have the whole Tomb of Dracula.
He started
run.
in 1968, right?
Yeah, I believe that's when it was. Yeah. So good stuff.
I have to go with issue 122, The Death of the Green Goblin.
That is probably one of the best covers of all time, right there.
Yeah.
That
right.
rivals the Silver Surfer one.
Yes, this is the next one after that, right? Because this is 1973. You're showing 1968.
Yep. This just looks like a war. It's like a war zone on this cover.
John Romita cover.
Yeah, classic.
This is poster material right here.
Yeah, it
You
is.
need to blow this up.
It is.
Mike Esposito on the inks, I believe.
I think so. Yep.
This I have been after for such a long time.
That's right. You just got this
I
recently.
just got this like 2 years ago. And on a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 1. It's in really bad shape. It's tattered. But it's mine. I have it.
Yep.
We recently had a comment from a guy that said, where do you draw the line? Basically, I paraphrased, and he was asking, what's your determination for a key issue? What do you do? And it's like, do you pass on a crappy book for a better quality book of a key that you're looking for, or do you cave in and buy it? And in this case, I caved in and bought it because I needed it, because I had every issue from like 107 at the time to 300, and needed this one and 135. So I finally caved in and bought it.
And that's a good reader copy, right? You can take this
It
out.
definitely is.
I mean, it's not going to fall apart on you.
No, but it's it's definitely fragile.
You can
along the
tell.
side,
Yeah, you can tell.
But the colors still pop.
Yeah.
It's in great shape, and I didn't have to pay the top dollar price of a 9. I got it as a 1. So I scored. And
Case in point, so we were just talking, before we went on the air, we were just talking. So Bill was talking about how he saw a copy of this available online for, what was it, a 0.5?
it was a 0.5.
So the reason why it was a 0.5 is someone took an X-Acto knife and they actually cut
Out the Silver
the
Surfer.
entire Silver Surfer from the cover. The cover was intact, but no Silver Surfer
So
on it.
that is a situation where you pass and wait for a better quality book.
I would pass on that, absolutely, because your main character is gone from the cover. What's the point?
So we hope we answered your question, Guy. So yeah, it depends on the circumstances. I actually answered him back in the comments, but it depends how bad you want it, and you will eventually lower your standards if you really want it that bad,
Yeah,
So in this case, this was acceptable.
I think it is.
Yeah. So, and after waiting 35 years or something, and finally, this is opportunity knocks, you go for it, because opportunity does not knock twice.
Doesn't. So my next key is Captain America 100.
Yes.
Also pretty much the first issue, but they kind of took off where
Separated from Iron Man and Tales of Suspense.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. So
He
is great.
gets Tales of Suspense ended with the previous issue,
99. Yep.
and then Iron Man got number 1.
Yep. And Cap got 100. Weird how they did that back in the day, but whatever.
They also did that with the Submariner and the Hulk.
And the Hulk, yeah, it's kind of strange, but but this is it's a fantastic cover. It's a fantastic issue. Of course, this is Jack King Kirby, who was doing the original run. Then he gave way to Jim Steranko for a bit, and then you had Gene Colan and a bunch of other guys come in and out. So, but yeah, this is and this is in great shape. I mean, this was a pretty pricey book, but I had to have it. And I think,
and that's what, 1968?
Yeah, I believe 60. Yeah, I think it was
68,
67 or
69?
68. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But a
Silver
great one.
Age.
Silver Age, greatness, right? Just
that's
iconic cover, I think.
Sticking on that theme of characters splitting, I had to go with Hulk 102, which is the first Hulk when he split from the Submariner from Astonishing Tales.
Yep.
Oh, Tales to Astonish.
Yep.
Thank you. So you have Hulk 102, the big premiere issue, the first issue of the Hulk in his own mag. And Submariner, when he split, he got issue number 1. But Hulk carried on from Tales to Astonish, which the last issue was 101. So he gets 102. I bought this on the night of the news of Stan Lee's death. So I had been wanting this book for a while, bought it online, pulled the trigger, and finally went for it. This is the first time I've spent over $100 for a comic.
He got tired of looking at my copy. He's like, I gotta have that.
And this one's a 4.5.
That's good. It looks really good. Yeah,
it's crisp. I like it, and I'm glad I have it. So it helps complete my collection. I have every Hulk from 102 through 401.
That's a great run. Holy
Missing the classic keys 180 and 181.
Yeah, there you go.
And a couple in the 300s, like 3 or 4 of them, but who cares after 300? So that is my fourth pick.
Is that who drew the cover on that? Is that
I believe Maurice Severin.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, Maurice Severin.
One of the greats on that book.
Who do you got for number 4?
Speaking of Hulk and speaking of Captain America, I had to pull this one because it's one of my favorite all-time comics. One of my favorite all-time covers.
Another classic cover from Marvel Comics for the Silver Age right here.
Cap 110. So there's also kind of a story behind this one. This is one of those books that Mrs. Weber gave me back in the early 70s. My grandmother and grandfather's next door neighbor, who when I was a child would invite me over to her apartment.
And this is it?
No. Okay, that's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she had a son who was grown up who who left all his comics behind with her, and so she found out that I kind of like superheroes. Right, exactly. So every time we would go visit my grandparents in New York City, we would go. I would say, "Grandma, can you take me over to Mrs. Weber's?" And she would go and give me a comic book and some candy, and we would sit and chit chat with her for a while. So back in like 1971 or 72, she actually gave me this issue, not this one that I'm holding in my hand, but an original. Well, this is the original copy too, but an older.
What happened to the one that Mrs. Weber gave you? Did you sell that for beer money today?
No,
thank God. Yes.
It was in really horrible condition, and
right.
I wound up trading it like in like the late 70s to one of my friends for something else. Yeah, you know how you did that. I used to do a lot of trades back then.
Did you get a new bike?
No, other comics.
Oh,
I
okay.
traded for other comics, yeah, but I always regretted it. And then I actually went and rebought this about like 3 years ago or something like that. And this is a Jim Steranko cover. So again, we're talking about how Steranko took over from Kirby for a few issues, and just a classic cover. And I always loved how in this book Steranko made the Hulk like enormous. He was like
the
a
shadow over his face makes him look so much more menacing. Like he's gonna kill Bucky, you know.
Yeah, and this is Rick Jones actually.
Oh, it's Rick Jones.
It's Rick Jones
my
actually.
mistake.
But he donned the Bucky costume and everything like that. Yeah,
fake me out there.
Yep. But just a great confrontation here. Great cover, and again,
great story.
Yeah.
I myself have the same comic, but the reprint version. It says 35 cents on the cover, which was a reprint like back in 1979. But that was a reprint of Captain America, which was called, I forget now, but Marvel's Super Action.
Super Action, yeah, something like that.
So I have it, but I don't have the classic. So I have to wrap up with my fifth favorite key of all time is issue 129, the first appearance of the Punisher.
Previously owned by me.
Yes, and you've heard that story before, gang, but if not, this was part of the Spider-Man beer money story. I bought some comic books from Pete that eventually would have gone to a comic book store, and we don't know who the hell would have picked them up. So happy to say
bought this off the rack as a kid. Again, nobody, who gave a shit back in the 80s. Nobody really cared. Keys, whatever, Punisher, who cares?
Great story on the inside. The Punisher's taking pot shots at Spider-Man as he's web slinging.
It's the debut of the Punisher.
Yeah, and it's a great issue. It's a little beat up along the side, so on a scale of 1 to 10, they might call this a 2.
Yeah,
but I have it, and I've taken good care of it, as you can see over the years. And
so this is the only out of all those old Spider-Mans that I sold back in the day to either Bill or the comic store. This is the only one I have not rebought because it's like
it's a arm and a leg and a left testicle.
Yeah,
it's just too much money, and it's way overpriced. And I'm glad you sold it to me instead of that comic book dude, So I'm happy to still have it. And it is probably, between this and that Hulk I showed you, this is probably the ultimate key. But I think your Silver Surfers top this. But
I think that's more valuable.
Probably because of the Punisher.
Yeah, when you come down to it.
I
think out of all the ones we've shown, that's probably the most valuable one.
The most iconic, yeah. But for Spider-Man especially, But I'm so glad.
I mean, the Death of Gwen Stacy and the Goblin probably are better books. Storyline wise, but absolutely. I think this is the one that's worth the most money.
Because it's the first appearance of the Punisher. So what do you got there for your fifth
My
pick?
final one is going to be, it's not the first appearance, but it's the first issue of Ghost Rider.
In his own mag.
In his own magazine. So this
is a pricey book too. I've seen $400 for this online. I've seen people on Facebook, like flea markets, wanting $400, $500 for this book. I need it, but Mike Plug, right? Classic art. It's Mike Plug.
I'm pretty sure. Wait, hold on. Honestly, I don't remember if Plug actually did this or not.
Oh no.
Or whether he had moved on, because he did the Marvel Spotlight ones, and his first appearance in Marvel Spotlight ever.
Okay.
is even more than this.
So I thought I just assumed he did the cover for this.
Tom Sutton actually.
It was on the inside.
It was on the inside. I don't know.
He was a good inker too, Tom Sutton.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
you can always check online.
Captures the spirit of the Ghost Rider pretty
great
well.
Book.
For me, nothing rivals the Mike Plug version of Ghost Rider from Marvel Spotlight. For me, that's the best.
He's such a fantastic artist. Mike
everybody
Plug.
he worked on was so good. But
they worked for like 5 or 6 issues, and they pull him off and here, work on this next.
Yeah,
he never had like a consistent run like somebody like John Buscema, or Gene Colan, and that's just I don't know. I mean, you feel cheated if you like Mike Plug art. As he just didn't last long with any specific title. Whether it was,
his stuff he did with the Ghost Rider run in Marvel Spotlight,
Werewolf
by Nights, those Man-Thing issues, and those Frankensteins. They're awesome. They're just like, that's some of my favorite art ever. I'm a Kirby guy. I love Kirby, but man, some of that Plug stuff.
Yeah, he had a way of capturing horror.
Yeah.
The image,
dark atmospheric stuff,
fangs, good stuff.
Yeah, and he was, man. I'm you know what I'm thinking about right now, because we were talking about actually doing another episode of special comics to us, and how about that Man-Thing issue with the death of the clown? It's just like absolutely amazing stuff, and so many of those. Yeah, the death of the clown. With the clown, the alcoholic clown comes
I'm just
out.
holding up a couple of our 2 horror picks, basically.
Yeah. It's interesting how we both had a horror one, Yeah, I almost pulled out, Dracula #10, which has got the first appearance of Blade. Yeah. And, there's also the first appearance of Werewolf by Night in Marvel Spotlight, and Werewolf by Night #1.
That's a pricey book, Spotlight #2.
Yeah.
That's because it's the first Werewolf by Night.
Yep.
That's a cherry right there.
And then you got, the first appearance of Man-Thing in Adventures into Fear, number 10.
That's a Brunner cover, I believe.
I believe it's Frank Brunner. Yeah. There's all sorts of good, really good keys. We have a lot more keys, but it's just.
We figured it'd be nice to share some with you. We thought it'd be a different topic, so we thought you'd like it. So anyway, we did it, and that's it. That's the end. Hope you liked it. I'm Wild Bill saying thanks as always for being here. We thank you for your comments and your subscriptions. And we have more videos coming, so stay tuned. I'm Wild Bill saying thanks for being here and watching Comic Book Geezers. We appreciate your views. Thanks for watching.
And I'm Pete. Take care, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.